Thanks for joining today. Really nice to have you here. So in this session, we have 90 minutes together, and we will give you an overview of what the AI Opportunity Fund Europe is about. We will then cover who is eligible to apply and some of the key programme dates. We will talk you through the criteria that will guide the selection of successful organisations. And then we'll also talk through the next steps and some key dates for your diary.
And we'll try to frame the problem as we intended it for this program. And of course, it's a very complex problem, so we don't want to oversimplify it. But this is something that kind of came about when we were doing the preparatory research for this program. And this is how we try to frame the issue. So we are in a situation of uncertainty and speculation around the effects of AI, especially on the labor market. There is a lot of uncertainty and a vivid debate going on, especially because simply we lack the data. We don't have historical knowledge of this phenomenon. And therefore, we are facing fear and concerns about the future and the lack of clarity of how AI will impact us both as an individual and as a workers. So what happens is that there is confusion around what the roles of the future will be, and therefore what skills and knowledge will be required in future jobs. And in addition to this, the fast pace of technology evolution is also, creating quickly changing skills demands. And therefore, often we find ourselves with inadequate or lacking training offers. So we're facing educational curricula that struggle to keep the pace with tech advancement. And this is coupled with a widespread lack of life learning culture. And therefore, the educational offers are somewhat insufficient. And this is the main risk that we're facing, which is increasing of inequalities. So with inadequate training offers, the risk is that the benefits of AI will unevenly distribute across social demographic groups. And so they will widen existing inequalities. So we have some social demographic groups such as women, people with disabilities, racially minoritized communities that have been facing historically inequality of opportunities and income, and therefore, if we do not adequately intervene here, the risk is that of exacerbating existing inequalities. And here is where the AI Opportunity Fund comes in, because there are obviously a lot of unknowns in this situation. But what we can try to do is to really be aware of the unique challenges that the most vulnerable are facing, and try to support them in such a way that we can give them the necessary tools to navigate this transition. But before we move on to show you what the fund is actually about, let me first take some time to explain how we are intending to tackle the final beneficiaries of this program. So first of all, we are operating with a fairly broad definition of workers. So anyone engaged in economic activities for monetary compensation, whether under the direction of an employer, as a contractor, or as a self-employed individual, now or in the future is classified as worker. And this is important because we are also looking at people and individuals who are currently underemployed or unemployed. However, I mentioned earlier that this initiative is focused at vulnerable workers, vulnerable individuals. But how are we thinking about vulnerability? Because it's a very complex issue to frame. And therefore, we're thinking about it in two different ways. So first of all, we're looking at demographic groups who have been historically underserved due to societal factors. So these groups are already experiencing some sort of inequality, again, of income, of opportunity in the labor market, and so on and so forth. And therefore, AI transitions could risk of exacerbating these inequalities, as I mentioned earlier, without a dedicated intervention. So examples of this are women, people with disabilities, racially minoritized communities, people lacking advanced educational credentials, and senior citizens or older workers. And the second group of people we're tackling is workers with high exposure to AI in the workplace due to the nature of their job. And so for this group of people, AI augmentation might pose the risk of job displacement on one hand due to automation. And on the other hand, it could also pose the possibility of enhancing the productivity and performance thanks to the role of AI. However, this is kind of conditioned to the fact that they must receive adequate training support in order to be able to navigate this transition. And so it's important to support them during this period of change. And this group can include a variety of jobs, including workers in manufacturing, administrative assistants, roles in customer service, different types of analysts, or other knowledge workers, but also workers in the creative industries. And so just to note, these are just illustrative examples of the beneficiaries that we aim to tackle with this program, but we are also conscious that we might have left out some other categories of workers that are equally exposed to AI transitions, and we are very confident that applicants will depict their own understanding of vulnerability because they are closer to the final recipient's needs. And so we're really eager to hear from you what your understanding of the situation is. And now we can dive deeper into what the opportunity is offering. So the Google.org AI Opportunity Fund Europe is a 15 million euro initiative whose overarching goal is to make AI knowledge and skills more accessible to those who are underserved and we're facing job and economic insecurity. And so concretely, it will be allocating this total of 15 million euros throughout organizations across the EU member states, the United Kingdom, Turkey, and Ukraine between 2024 and 2026. And the organizations selected throughout this process will have support across 3 pillars. And let's dive deeper into them. So the first and main one is AI skills training. So we are working with 2 different high quality foundational AI curricula designed by the University of Helsinki and Google. So these will be the content that we will draw from to provide this training to your final beneficiaries. And some of the training features, such as the language and the delivery mode and the duration, will be customized to final recipient needs. So for instance, if you have internal training capacity, you might opt to deliver the training yourself. And then we can support with a train-the-trainer approach, or else we will provide external certified trainers to deliver the program in your geography. And the same goes as for whether the training will take place online or in person. The second element of the initiative is cash funding. So we are aware that there are expenses and costs related to delivering the training and getting workers to actually attend it. So to complement the educational curricula, we are going to provide cash funding to help remove the barriers that learners might face to access this program. And this might include, for instance, costs to cover childcare, stipends, or for instance, reimbursement of travel expenses or accommodation. So the funding will range between 10 and 100,000 euro grants, again, depending on the needs that have been identified during the selection process. And just to note that cash funding is really directed to beneficiaries and creating the adequate learning environment, and it is not intended to support overheads or other operational expenses. Finally, the third element of the initiative is ongoing support. So we really aim for this program to continue even after the training period itself. So we will invite recipients to participate in a community of practice, where they can exchange their stories and the journey of their learners. And we'll also provide tailored support, such as, for instance, in storytelling, based again on the needs of our beneficiaries. And finally, this is what we are aiming for with all this work. We are hoping that at the end of the program, learners will have increased their baseline knowledge and awareness of AI tools, and as well as increase their confidence in using AI tools, both in the workplace, but also in their personal life. We're also looking at improving what we call the transversal skills, such as critical thinking, management, analysis. And finally, just more broadly, we are hoping for learners to face increased and improved career prospects for the future. So this is what the fund is all about, but let's see more in detail what your role will be in this program. So just to be clear, we expect applicant organizations that will be shortlisted during the selection process to oversee the learners management, so overseeing the enrollment and the recruitment of learners and coordinate the participation of the training program throughout the delivery, as well as taking care of all the logistical aspects. And this includes, for instance, hiring a venue, liaising with the training provider, and just in general, ensuring that the training is smoothly delivered. Thirdly, we also expect you to provide consistent support to attendees to ensure consistent attendance and just provide be a point of contact during the training. And finally, you'll also be responsible for evaluating. So you will be asked to conduct pre and post training surveys to assess the effectiveness of the program and also to gather feedback from participants. At the same time, this is what you will not be required to do. So first of all, you will not be engaged in the creation of the curriculum. So as I mentioned earlier, the training curricula will draw from these two established and top tier AI courses, and we will make sure that they are tailored to suit the needs of your end beneficiaries. And this will be jointly agreed on during scoping conversations later down the line. And secondly, you are not required to deliver the training autonomously. So again, I mentioned it earlier, but we partner with experienced training providers to ensure that the training is provided in a consistent and high quality way for all participants and throughout geographies. And therefore, you are not required to deliver it independently. Just to note that if you have sufficient internal training capabilities, there is also the opportunity of adopting a train-the-trainer approach, but this again will be determined in the scoping phase further down the line.
And then, yeah, we can move on to the next point on the agenda, where we'll be discussing some of the eligibility criteria and like what the program timelines for this program looks like. So when we first look at the types of organizations who are eligible to apply for the fund, so we think our eligibility criteria are relatively straightforward. So the fund is eligible for nonprofits, public interest organizations, social enterprises with a social mission, as well as trade unions, municipalities, educational institutions, or professional associations. And the fund is only eligible to organizations registered in one or more of the EU 27 member countries, plus the UK, Turkey, and Ukraine. And then it's also worth noting that joint applications are welcome. So as long as the consortium of organizations applying, they all fulfill the eligibility criteria. And then a final point on the eligible learners for the program is that we want to stress that beneficiaries of the fund, they have to be located in the EU 27 member countries, the UK, Turkey, or Ukraine. So this means that if your organization has connections to other groups in a variety of geographies, your organization is eligible to apply. But the beneficiaries of this particular program, they all have to be based in the mentioned geographies. So if your organization meets these criteria, we invite you to apply. And then a couple of examples of organizations not eligible for the fund. So for-profit entities without a social mission or charitable goals won't be considered for the fund. And the fund is also not an initiative for organizations who are looking to upskill their own staff in AI. And this also means that individuals without organizational affiliation won't be considered. And then another point is, we've had this question raised previously, and just want to be clear that the fund is targeted at individuals with association to the labor market. And so children, youth, or learners under the age of 18 aren't an ideal audience for this training. So then finally, organizations registered outside of the EU 27 member countries, the UK, Turkey, or Ukraine, aren't eligible for the fund. And for instance, unfortunately, this means that organizations based in Norway, Liechtenstein, or Switzerland won't be considered as well. So yes, if we move on to the application process and timelines. So the applications, as you will have seen, they opened in April. So you can now access the application through our application platform. It's called Submittable. And here you will be able to save and edit and come back to the application before finally submitting it. And we'll also go through what those steps look like later today. So before the applications close later this month, we're hosting these 3 information workshops, of which this is unfortunately the last. But if you have further questions after today, you can email us, or you can rewatch a recording of the sessions, which will circulate after today. And all the information we're giving is also available on our website. So hopefully you won't be missing out on anything. And then finally, the most important date to remember is that application closed later this month on the 28th of June. And that is just a note to say that we won't accept applications after the deadline. And then what happens after the application deadline? So immediately after applications close, our team will start reviewing applications. And as these successful applicants are selected, our team will get in touch with the organizations to work collaboratively on both the training and funding agreements to make sure that the scope of the training really suits your organization and the beneficiaries you support. And this is expected to take place in the autumn of this year. And we then aim to have the final announcements of the selected applicants in December of this year, at the very latest on the 31st of December. And then the delivery of the training will start in 2025 and can then last up to 2 years. So that's a little bit about the timeline that we're looking ahead on. Because we're moving into the scoring criteria and how applications will be reviewed. So if we move on, so what are we looking for when we're going through your applications? So we're looking for organizations that are able to demonstrate strong and trusted relationships with beneficiaries and an understanding of the needs and barriers they face. So basically organizations working in the interest of their beneficiaries and committed to supporting them. And next, we're looking for organizations, with a mission for lifelong learning. And this means organizations with the track record of supporting workers and a commitment to lifelong skills development. Thirdly, we're looking for organizations that can sustain and scale AI skills initiatives. So we really hope that organizations are willing to continue the development of AI skills and training in their programs after this initiative finishes. And lastly, organizations should be able to demonstrate a general understanding of the ecosystem they operate in. So this includes being able to see systemic or structural opportunities and challenges related to advancing their mission and what other factors influence their work. But let's look into each of these criteria and what you can expect from the application itself. And I believe Francesca will take us through that application.
Thank you, Matilda. So yeah, let's see together what the application process looks like. So first of all, you will find a quick eligibility assessment made up of a few questions regarding your headquarter, where are you registered, and what type of organization you're registered with, just to make sure that we are not wasting each other's time. And if you tick all the eligibility criteria, you will be able to access the application form, which in turn is composed of 3 parts. So the first one is quite straightforward. It's a general contact and organizational information about your organization. And then we move on to part 2, the second section, that is the most substantial and important and interesting of the application itself, and requires open-ended questions. So this is the part where you are asked to explain why your organization is well suited to take part in this program, why it is well suited to serve your beneficiaries, what challenges they're facing in the context of AI and the labor market, and what your vision for upskilling is, and so on and so forth. So we will be showing some of the questions that we have envisioned here later on. And then the third part of the application is the needs assessment. So it's the part where you are asked to detail how you would deploy the support provided by the fund, and what type of help you would need to do this successfully, if you have past experiences in running similar programs, and so on and so forth. So this is really to make sure that we are giving you the right support to make this successful. Just a remark that we really encourage you to use the 200 words you're given here, because we really want to make sure that you are detailed and clear in responding our questions. And finally, our AI guidelines. So of course, we are all very aware of the benefits that AI tools can bring to an application like this, in terms of translation, editing, generating idea. But just be mindful that it's very important for us to know your organization's genuine and specific mission, your values, your points of view. So we really advise against relying on AI-generated responses, because we value the authenticity and the depth that human insights can bring to this application process. So we really encourage you to make this application your own, and don't over-rely on AI tools. So this is what we will also be doing during the review and the selection process as well, of course. So now we can move on and dive deeper into some of the example questions that you will be finding in the application. So as Matilda mentioned previously, our first criterion to evaluate applications is the organization's capacity of demonstrating trusted and deep relationship with their beneficiaries. And we have 2 questions related to this point, question 18 and question 20. So the first one is, what is your organization's relationship with the group of beneficiaries you have identified? How do you usually engage with them to understand and assess their needs and challenges? And question 20, how has your organization directly engaged beneficiaries to understand your challenges? For instance, have you conducted surveys, interviews, group consultations, and so on? And here are some tips to be successful in these questions. So make sure that you tell us why your organization is serving this particular group of beneficiaries. So what experiences, what specific knowledge makes you well suited to represent these beneficiaries and support them successfully. Outline how you incorporate the information you collect from your beneficiaries in your activities and programs. So what new information have you learned? What are the unique and specific challenges that these communities are facing, and what makes them particularly and uniquely vulnerable to AI? And finally, describe what mechanisms you use to maintain regular communication or collaboration with them. So how often and how do you engage with their beneficiaries? Just let us know what mechanisms you have in place. The following scoring criteria is demonstrating a mission for lifelong learning. So we are looking for a clear commitment to skills development in the long run. And again, we have 2 questions related to this, question 19 and 23. So describe how AI-related changes in the job market impact the group of beneficiaries you have identified. what challenges are they facing, and why is it important that they acquire foundational AI knowledge and tools? And question 23, how does your organization promote continuous learning more generally? So to answer these two questions, we encourage you to be, once again, very specific in describing the insights and data that have informed your analysis. So if you have conducted research, be really explicit about it, and tell us what you learned from it. And if you think that there are any particular tools or systems that your beneficiaries would benefit from learning in this context. And secondly, tell us what you hope, what skills and knowledge you hope beneficiaries will gain via this program, what impact these will have on them in the long term. And don't limit yourself to the professional context, but also think more holistically about what impact this can have on the personal life of your learners. And finally, describe how this opportunity fits into a broader plan of long-term skills development for your beneficiaries. So what do you think that are the benefits that continuous learning can bring to your beneficiaries, again, as a whole and holistically? And I will pass it over to Matilda to walk us through the next two criteria.
Thanks, Francesca. Yes, the third component that we're looking at is the potential for sustainability and scalability of the AI training. So as an example to demonstrate this, we asked the question of how your organization would implement an AI training program for your beneficiaries. So we're asking you to explain the details of how your organization practically would introduce this program and how it could complement your existing work. So we would love for you to get as detailed as possible. How would you specifically assess beneficiaries' knowledge gaps and training needs? And how would you ensure equal opportunities for training attendance and determine the optimal training method? So if you're thinking that you do mixed method training, what are the benefits of trade-offs of an online or offline training for your beneficiaries? It's really a chance for you to get as detailed as down to the operational practicalities as possible. Another tip could be to describe your visions for the future of the program. So how your team's expertise is leveraged to ensure the best possible outcomes for your beneficiaries. And then a final bonus tip, give examples of how the training would fit into your organization's existing program portfolio. The final scoring criteria is around your organization's understanding of the wider ecosystem and the systemic challenges and opportunities in the field. So one of the questions we ask in the application is what long-term impact you hope the AI or upskilling will have on beneficiaries. So for this question, we're looking for you to describe the transformative changes you hope for and how the successful implementation of this program really could contribute to broader advancement within your ecosystem. This is a way for you to demonstrate how this training specifically would benefit your beneficiaries in the longer term. So have you identified any systemic blockers, opportunities in your field that impact your beneficiaries? The other tip is to give us insight into how your organization stays informed and up to date with development that impact your beneficiaries. So for instance, is your organization using its network and position to advance the field of skills development? And are there some specific initiatives that you engage in? What role do you envision that the organization will play in the longer term? And then for the bonus tip, see how detailed and specific you can get to illustrate the depth of your knowledge and stay away from some of the generalized statements that often circulate the AI field. Great. So yes, to best understand what support your organization will need, the final part of the application is a needs assessment section. So this is a short section where you are asked to detail if you have experience delivering upskilling programs, and if so, what the context of those were, and what you've learned and who the beneficiaries were. that was your experience. And then another question is around your internal capacity to deliver training, or whether you will need external training providers through the fund. It should be made clear that your application isn't disadvantaged if you don't have the internal delivery capacity, but that this is a question really just to make it easier for us to understand what support your organization will need to effectively reach and deliver this training to beneficiaries. The final component of this is a question around funding to better understand how your organization will spend the available funding to reduce barriers and ensure equal opportunities for beneficiaries. So here on the slide, we have included some examples of what the funding can cover, which can be up to 100,000 euros. But I want to stress, like Francesca did, that your organization is closer to the learner group. So just to say that these examples are suggestions. So expenses can fall into two categories around learning infrastructure, like venue hire, equipment, or other costs dedicated to removing barriers for learning. And then it could be financial support directly to learners to help cover living expenses during the course, or for instance, to cover childcare costs or other subsistence expenses to ensure that learners can participate in the training sessions. And a final note that the general overheads and marketing costs won't be covered through the fund. And here we have a little video of how to start and how to submit an application, which I hope the volume is all right. And if not, you can adjust on your laptops.
So you start on CPI's website, where you press apply now, and you're taken to the application platform, where you first see a welcome page with basic information about the process. You can scroll down and read the guidelines of how to apply. And when you're ready, you press apply, and you're taken to the sign up page, where you can either sign in when you return to an application, or for the first time you sign up with your email address, your name, and a password to access the application. And you're asked to confirm your password, so we make sure that you can return to your application once you've signed up. The platform then asks that you verify your email, so we make sure that we have all the correct contact information to reach you. So when you've done that in your inbox, you just refresh the page and you're taken to the application platform. Then the first part of the application page is the eligibility test. So you're asked to put in the country you're applying from and then what type of organization you apply from, then confirm that you've read the terms and conditions, and then you're taken to the actual application, where the first part is about the contact, basic info about your organization, then the application, and lastly a needs assessment. And when you're ready, you can then in the end you submit, or you can save the draft and return to your application. So you start.
Okay, and I believe that with the video, we've reached the last point in our agenda. So let me just cover final reminders, the next steps, and then we'll make room for more Q&A. So just again, to stress this, applications close on June 28th, 2024. This will be a hard deadline managed by the platform, so we cannot make much about it. So please make sure that you submit your application in time. If you start an application and you cannot complete it straight away, remember that you can always save a draft. And if you have a draft application, we'll probably reach out to you to remind you to complete it before the deadline. Secondly, you can check the application terms and conditions, the FAQs, and all the other details on our timelines and scoring criteria on our website, where you find all relevant information. So you have it linked here. And we have also pulled together a document gathering previous questions and answers from the other information sessions that we held. So you'll also find the link here in the presentation. And should this not be exhaustive enough, please feel free to reach us out by email. And this is our inbox, AI Opportunity Fund at centerforpublicimpact.org. We would be happy to help and be as specific as possible in answering your questions.